All right, so let's go to the next phase. So we've created the material, we created the sphere, and we created the light so that we can mimic this effect over here. Now, what we could go in, what we're talking about actually controlling multiple attributes of multiple objects, and we want to try and simplify this. So on the light side, we're going to be controlling the intensity, right? On the material side, oops, which let's assign that material actually, hold on. Okay. On the material side, we're going to be controlling a few of the attributes like incandescence, and we could even control the ambient color as well. Incandescence can really kind of drive that up. Ambient color will get pushed just a little bit further. It's not too hard to just add to that. So, and we could also control the color itself. So we have a few attributes we want to control. Now, we're talking about having multiple bulbs going up, and probably if they all came on at the same time, life would be easy, but sometimes that's not the way you want it. You want to have more control and just have it maybe that they're turning on one by one as they go on and then going up. All right. So a lot of things going on, but we have a plan. So first thing, I named my material, and it might be a good idea to start naming this. So the material is light matte 1, light material 1. My light, I'm just going to call, let's call this one light, I'm just going to say light 1. Make it simple enough. And then the ball under shape, I'm going to change that, the mesh shape, to light mesh 1. Okay. Light mesh 1, light material 1, and then light 1. And as I duplicate these, it's going to change the 1 into a 2, and that'll make life a lot easier. Okay. So first things first is making a controller. Let me show you what the end result is. I know this looks a lot more complicated than what it is. This is my my hypershade, and this is basically a network of nodes showing me some of the things that I have selected here, right? So this is the original one. Lambert, that's the original material on that first one that's working. It always creates an SG, a surface, a shader graph that actually connects to the out color. Ignore that for right now. But I have a floating point, basically a value controller, and I have it plugged into the ambient color, the incandescence, and the intensity, so that when basically I go to this guy, I have it attached in an attribute to a group. So when I select this and I up arrow, just like we did the group on the spotlight, and I go to my channel box, you're going to notice I have a brightness setting that if I click on it and I crank that up and down, oops, let's see, you'll notice it's changing its values because this guy is tied to this floating point. And we can see what it's connected to. It's not doing it right now because it's keyed. And that's why this little bar is here. So it acts a little wonky, but it's on group 9, which is this group here. And when they're lined up, I can set them up. They're set up next to each other. I just put this on the inside. And that's giving me a nice little effect inside of there. See? And you can see all these, when it has a yellow bar, they're tied together. But I have them all grouped together, so when I selected an up arrow, there's the brightness that I'm going to eventually like key off and on. And that's basically what the controller is that we have to build over here. So the cool thing in the hypershade, and the way I got to my hypershade, remember I was doing spacebar hypershade render perspective, which puts it right up here. But for the sake of this tutorial, because of screen space, I'm going to separate it away by going to Windows, Rendering, Hypershade. And that tears it away so I can actually see it. I also have these, you can have these tabs that are groups of hierarchies to see, and then make your own. So I'm going to make my own. Okay. So for a moment, I am going to have to kind of bounce a little bit. There's my light material. I can middle mouse drag it right into here. If I accidentally pull the wrong one, I can also click clear the graph and then put other things. If I have something selected, I can add it to the graph. So those are the 3 components. So I need to pull in my light material. I need to, there's my light, select that, and add that in here. Oops, jinkies. Add that in, add you in. So I've got my material, got my light, and I could have just dragged it from here into here. See. So I've got my light material, I've got my light, and we need a floating point to control whatever attributes we want. Then I'll show you how to set that up. So I can actually name this group if I wanted to. I can right click and rename this tab and call this one light 1. So that now I know that that is that one I just created, these guys here. Okay. And I haven't grouped them yet, but that's okay. I'll do it in a second. And I'm going to add one more thing in here. Right click, create a node. Pulls this up. It also is this. Basically create a node. So you can create from over here. You can open it up. So I could just, without having this over, I could just go into here. And it's a utility that I want. All these are different types of utilities that you can use. And the one that I want to use, where are you, is a float constant. And there it is there. What you'll notice is when I select this, if you look in your channel box, there's the floating value right there. It's just a value that can go up. I can actually move it up, down to whatever value. It's just a floating number. And this is going to have to connect to these guys because I wanted to control the light and I wanted to control the material. Now I'm going to do it very simple, so it's going to be a white light. Okay. Controlling the intensity of the light is easy. All I have to do is just drag the output, outfloat to intensity. That's simple enough. Now, you'll notice that some of these are red. If I try to actually drag it to the ones I want to hook it up, it's saying, nope, not going to do it. And that is because this is a single floating point, and these are floating three, uh, three value. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this into each individual channel of the ambient. And actually I'm going to show you something kind of interesting. If I only put it in the red and the green and not the blue, and then I do the same for incandescence, you see it makes yellow. Okay. There are ways of getting it a different color and all that kind of stuff, but I just wanted you to see that this is additive color, so RGB equals white. That's the same way your pixels work on your screen, bringing all three of those colors. If I just plug in 2, it emits one of the colors and it makes a yellow, and that's how we get a yellow in there. Obviously this is different from subtractive color, which is when you're actually painting, and if you start mixing a bunch of colors, you don't get white, you get this muddy purpley brown. So, but just so that you understand, if I go there, now you'll notice it's actually yellow. And as I turn it up, you see that. We get that. Okay. Now I could have had an intensity or plugged it in, you know, like kind of set up color and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to do it, keep it simple. Right? So right now, it's actually working. If I actually select the floating point, you can see it, which is hidden in the hypershade connections right now, and I change the value of that, and I'm middle mouse dragging when I select the name, we can see the intensity going. And if I want it white, once again, I'm just going to pull this right there. Alrighty. So we've got that set up, but getting to that floating point is going to be a little bit of a pain, because if I click on something, you notice the floating point doesn't show up. If I click on the light, it says it's connected to something, but it doesn't. There it is there, and then I can dig in. So you can get to it. This is an easier way of doing it where if you'll notice, I can actually go through, but it's not showing everywhere, and that's kind of a little bit of a problem, right? So I want to make this a little bit more visible, okay? Because it is going to be a little bit of a pain. And if I actually select this, if I take both of these and I hit Control G, it makes a group, and I'll call this group light 1, no, light group 1 underscore 1. You always want to use underscores instead of spaces. And just like the other one, if I select this and up arrow, now I have the group, but you'll notice that the pivot is way over here. So this is where you go in, kind of line these guys up. Then when I select it, up arrow, and just say modify center pivot. And that puts the pivot of the group right in the center of that sphere and of these two objects, or at least close enough. And once again, if I just select it, I'm just selecting the sphere. If I select it and up arrow, I've got the group, and you can see it says light group 1. Okay, so just real quick recap. We pulled the material and the light, middle mouse dragging them into here, into our hypershade little tab viewport, and then we added a floating constant, right click, or you can go into utilities, float constant, and then we hooked it up into the intensity of the light, as well as all the separate channels of the ambient color and the incandescence. Okay. And then I just position them together, grouped them with Control G, and then made sure that they were, one was inside the other. Went to Modify, Center Pivot to move the group. So remember to select the group. You select one, either the light or the ball. Up arrow, you see it highlights the group that I named. Modify, Center Pivot, and then that moves the pivot point right to its center. Okay. And that is the next piece. The final piece is just setting it up so that we actually have a controller that we can use, and then how to duplicate this.